Hi, this is Raw with Raw College Prep. I'm going to show you how to raise your score on the SAT with some simple math strategies that you need to know. Um, we're going to focus now on linear equations, linear inequalities, and linear functions. They feature very heavily on the SAT, and you need to know how to do them the SAT way. So we're going to look at an example problem here, very typical. In the xy plane, line L has a y-intercept of -13 and is perpendicular to the line with equation y equals -2/3 x. If the point 10b is on line L, what is the value of b? That question, like I said, you'll run into very often on the SAT, and a lot of times you don't know how to start unpacking it. But we always got to start with step one, which is, what do we know? And there's always something we know. And so if you go back to the question, there are a couple facts. One is line L has a y-intercept of -13. Hopefully at this point you're thinking slope-intercept form, because that's the key to unlocking this. Fact two, line L is perpendicular to y equals -2/3 x. Another fact you need to know, so if you've forgotten this, brush up on it, because you're going to run into it, is that perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. Therefore, we now know that line L has a slope of +3/2. So with that knowledge, we can start looking at what are any other conditions in the problem that they want us to work with. So our second step now is going to be focusing on that y equals mx plus b format. So first thing we got to do is take the equation, put it into that form. Just as a reminder, your m is where your slope is located, your b is your y-intercept. Did they try to confuse you by using b as a variable later on in the question? Yes, but we'll get there later. So now, after we write the formula, we can start substituting in those facts that they told us earlier. And so now we know that y, our line that we're trying to solve, has a slope of +3/2 and a y-intercept of -13. Notice we don't know the x and y coordinates yet. If we go back to the question, it gives us, if we actually ask what the task is, it says, hey, if the point 10b is on line L, what's the value of b? So this is not to be confused. They're not asking about b as the y-intercept, but because they use the coordinates 10b, b is now in the place of y. So we've got to plug in 10 for the x value and solve for y. We have everything else. We have, the only thing we're missing is what our y coordinate is. So just with simple algebra, we isolate the variable and we land up with y equals 2. And in this case, y is your b. So that's all you needed to unpack that guy. The math is very easy. It's getting through the vocabulary and knowing that as soon as you see anything to do with slope or lines, you most likely need to format it into slope-intercept form. And then it all starts flowing from there. So make sure you know the positions of that formula, and make sure you know about perpendicular lines. On that same note, if you don't get a perpendicular question, you'll get one about parallel lines. And they just have equal slope, okay? So that's about all you need. Hope you learned something.